Seattle Mariners just finished up a big homestand versus the Kansas City Royals, winning 2 of the 3 games. We're going to talk about what happened in this series and the homestand as a whole. Then we're going to talk about the Mariners' need for another high leverage reliever because at this point, Andres Munoz's arm is going to fall off. We're going to talk about J.P. Crawford coming back and wrap it all up by talking about this upcoming series in Baltimore and this 10-game road trip. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 87 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the Tyler episode of the podcast, and I'm here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
Just the Tyler episode. Feeling good about it. You stole my joke. I'm just gonna, pull back the curtain. You're in the green room before this. I made the joke about Andres Munoz's arms falling off, and I get it. All right, it's a good comment to make. Having to throw 33 pitches in the final game of the Royals series, another 5-out save. But Colton, I would never in my life have thought that you would have stolen my joke in the middle of the podcast when I said maybe 5 to 10 minutes ago. Never in my life would I have placed a bet on the fact that you might steal one of my jokes, but you'd bet on it. Probably with BetOnline. Thank you to BetOnline for being the sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. BetOnline is your #1 source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores will be available to you to follow your favorite teams on BetOnline. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And speaking of Andres Munoz, Colton, he got a 4-out save in the first game of this Royal series, a game that the Mariners took 6-2. Luke Raley coming in with some big power in this game. Homer in the second inning off of Brady Singer. Brady Singer's been pitching well so far in 2024, but it didn't look like he pitched that well against the Mariners. Not exceptionally well in the first game here. Colton, let's you look excited to talk about game 1.
You're not even going to mention that Luke Raley broke the trident, bro?
I mean,
like how did it even happen?
I was a little scared to bring it up.
They've won a game since. They've won 2 games since then, so who cares?
I'm going to, out of solidarity for Luke Raley, since apparently I look like him, I'm going to break the bottom of mine by unscrewing the bottom. Threw that to the side. Now we've both going to have broken tridents, so feels good. Feels good, Luke Raley.
I don't know what to do with this now.
I just set mine on the ground.
All right. Anyway,
you could kill a guy with that thing.
You could. Brick killed a guy. Luke Raley went 3 for 4 in this game, like you said, with the big home run. Ty France also had a home run in this game, backing up George Kirby's 7 innings of 3-hit ball with 6 strikeouts. Ryan Stanek came in and, 2/3 of an inning, gave up 2 runs and 3 hits to just 1 strikeout. Another rough outing for Ryan Stanek. Overall, this game kind of showed why the Mariners bullpen needs somebody more than just Andres Munoz, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit. The offense for this team, we had Jorge Polanco out there who came out of the game with, what was it, a hamstring tightness or something?
Just a little tightness in the hammies.
Mitch Garver also did not play after this game. He went 0 for 4 in this game, and he's now out with upper back spasms or something for the second time this year. Hopefully that doesn't keep him on the shelf too long. In terms of who hit well in this game, we already talked about Ty France and Luke Raley. Dylan Moore went 1 for 4. Rojas and Julio went 1 for 4. And Cal Raleigh went 2 for 4 in this game as well. So overall, a 6-2 victory for the Mariners in game 1, Joe. Wasn't so lucky in game 2.
No, it was so close, though, dude. It was one swing of the bat, one misplaced slider from Logan Gilbert. He was dominating the Royals.
It wasn't even a bad pitch.
That's the thing.
Inside.
It wasn't a bad pitch, but he wasn't where he wanted it. And whether or not Velasquez does something with that slider, if it is located where he wanted to, which it seemed like on the outer third of the plate there, one pitch ruined. I don't even want to say ruined. It was still a fine outing from Logan Gilbert. 6 2/3, struck out 7, 3 hits on 4 earned. He did walk 3 batters, so that's a little bit more than maybe he would like. But also the Mariners offense didn't do enough in this game. Like game 1, they did plenty in game 1. Didn't do enough in game 2 off of Michael Wacha and a devastating changeup from him. He made Sam Haggerty look silly with a nice little floater into the bottom right hand side of the zone for a strikeout. I know Pitching Ninja posted it. but like it was Sam Haggerty, you know what I mean?
It's not that hard to do. Yeah.
It was Sam Haggerty. This was the first night where we saw Polanco and Garver both out. So a little bit different of a lineup approach. That's why Haggerty's in there. This is because, Dom Canzone wasn't available to go. But he was in game 3, which is very exciting to see. Overall, this was a game where you wanted more of the top half of your lineup. You didn't get it. Rayleigh went home, went yard again. Good for him. He's really, really hot. But a guy that you moved down in the lineup after some struggles for the larger part of almost a month now for Mitch Haniger,
Mm-hmm.
pops off, gets on base all 4 times, goes 3 for 3, drew a walk at one point. He was the Mariners offense, essentially, in this game. Popped a 9th inning homer, but it wasn't enough at the end of the day, Colton.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch in the last 2 games of this series looked really good. And we've had our qualms about Mitch lately, of obviously Luke Raley getting hot, Dom Canzone coming back. The question was, what do you do with Mitch Haniger at that point? Do you put like Canzone in left, Raley in right, and just kind of bench Haniger for a little while? But now, and over the last couple of games, Haniger's looked really good again. Looked like he got his timing back down. And I know that he was working with Edgar on some things at T-Mobile Park. And so, maybe Mitch is the guy who's going to start heating up again. But with Canzone back now, it's going to be kind of tough to say. Canzone in game 3, Joe, did end up hitting a double while playing left field. We did see a good game out of Mitch again, as well as out of Luke Raley.
It seems like right now all 3 of them are kind of getting going at the right time. And I could only say that about Canzone for 1 game and his rehab assignments in Tacoma, which looked good enough for him to come back pretty quickly. I think it was 2 or 3 games he played. Mm-hmm. So good that Canzone's back. I'm happy to have him on the roster over, not to discredit Sam Haggerty anyway, but this lengthens the roster just in general, especially when Garver will be hopefully back DHing against the Orioles come Friday. Scott did say he was available to pinch hit in this game if there was a lefty on the mound with a good opportunity to get Garver in there. Just didn't happen. I think Polanco, it is a retroactive thing where they could add him to the injured list up until I think, was it not Friday? That seems too far away. Divish tweeted it at somebody today, but I can't remember where I saw it. But regardless, I'm expecting Garver back in the lineup on Friday against Baltimore. What does that mean for Haniger, Raley, and Canzone, especially with Ty having back-to-back pretty solid days? It'll be interesting to see, but I'm excited nonetheless, because if multiple guys on your roster are clicking all at the right time and they're fighting for playing time, that's better than guys being terrible and you having to pencil guys in that you don't want to play. Game 3, Brian Wu did his job. And it was an unfortunate circumstance because I felt like he could have gone even further. He could have done even better in this game. That into the 6th inning was just a nightmare opportunity for him because home plate umpire, it's not Randy Wolf. Jim Wolf.
Jim Wolf, Randy Wolf's brother.
Yeah, I was going to say Jeff Wolf, but that didn't sound right. Jim Wolf had to exit the game because a hit by like a foul ball hit him in the face, and then he's like, "Yo, I'm done. I'm calling it a day."
Did you see after it hit him, like he kind of stumbled backwards? Like nobody even like said anything about that. I'm like, the dude looks like he's down for the count right then and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a weird situation how it all unfolded, and it felt like it took way too long for someone to get the pads on and go out there to be the new home plate umpire. That, of course, was when the Mariners were supposed to bat in the bottom of the 5th. Going then into the top of the 6th, Wu was down for probably like 40 minutes at that rate. A guy that in the previous outing, who was down for a long time, then felt his arm get all tightened up. It didn't seem like I'm okay with Scott having him go back out there just to keep that cut and dry, because he was cruising up until that point. It's just, had that delay not been so long, I think Wu gets to that 6th inning no problem, and then you turn over to the pen. But unfortunately, the Mariners bullpen had to come in a little bit earlier. Gabe Spire comes in clutch, big leverage situation there, shuts it down, does not allow any more runs to score when they had the bases loaded with no outs. The Royals only scored 1 run in that instance. And at that point, the Mariners had scored 2 runs. It was a Ty France homer, and then who scored the first run of the game? Was it... I can't remember though who scored in the 2nd inning. Was it Raley? Yeah. No, Raley didn't score today. I can't remember. Was it Cal?
Was Ron an error?
The bases loaded play in Luis Urias. Yeah. And then Adam Frazier fielded the ball and then bobbled it, and Rayleigh, yeah, because Cal Raleigh scored. That's what it was. And then look at you. It was on an error. I'm so proud of you today. Yeah,
Thanks.
Wu exited with a lead, and the Mariners would hold on to that lead, Colton.
Yeah, it was a little rough there. Like you said, Gabe Spire came in and got the job done, which he hasn't been doing very much lately. So it was nice to kind of see him get back on track. Ryan Stanek came in, threw 1 inning of hitless ball. Austin Voth came in, pitched a third of an inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run. And at that point, the game was getting a little bit closer. The Mariners just had to turn the ball over to Andres Munoz, who has been so damn good for this team. It was kind of necessary at that point because this stupid Royals team, they always find a way. They're scrappy. They find a way to make you work for it. And they tried doing that again in this game, but thankfully Andres Munoz came in and shut the door on them. 3 strikeouts in getting a 5-out save, allowing 1 hit, Joe. But I think it kind of goes to show that this team right now needs another leverage reliever, Joe.
Yeah, it's something that even with holding some of like the best guys in baseball to quiet series, I think back to like the Braves series against Acuna. I didn't think Acuna did a ton in that series against the Braves. Bobby Witt Jr. in this series, I think he went 1 for 10. He had a couple sac flies, but like we kept a lot of the superstars against us quiet, but it still felt like a lot of these games, one, were either we're biting our nails, we're on the edge of our seat almost too much. Because if we have Brash or Santos out there, say, to go in the 8th inning instead of Austin Voth, this game's GG. Like, there's no worries. Munoz doesn't have to go out there and get another 5-out save. And so that's kind of where this team is at right now. They need one other guy. And it's only May. Jerry made a trade in the middle of the second game. Traded Tyson Miller. Was it the second game or the first game?
Yeah, I think it was
one of the games.
game.
Regardless, traded Tyson Miller, who just got sent down for Travis Slaughter. Is that his first name? Jacob? Travis? His last name's Slaughter. He was in the Cubs system, AAA. He's an older guy down in the minors. He's just organizational depth.
Whoa.
At this point, right? Like, I mean,
he's younger than me, bro.
But still, he's depth. It's not like he's gonna come up and be this
old.
Whatever, older depth. People are calling him the Jake Schneider 2.0, it seemed. So they traded one of the relievers that pitched for them, and I don't want to say like fully leverage innings. Tyson Miller was not necessarily a leverage reliever. But it shows that Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander, they're not opposed to making trades early on in the year, Colton. There are a couple teams that we kind of singled out here. These aren't the only options out there. But you're a guy that you're not as high on as maybe I am. The Cincinnati Reds at the bottom of the Central Division right now. A 34-year-old right-hander, Fernando Cruz, Colton. A guy that I think could move Stanek into a more consistent role. Him and Stanek, I think, could be used interchangeably along with Munoz and Gabe Spire for the time being until Gregory Santos comes back. Cruz, he's not pitching as great as maybe some of the other guys that we're about to say right now. So far in 17 innings in 2024, he's got a 4.24 ERA, but a 2.07 FIP. So there's some big discrepancy there. What does that say? I think he's pitching better than what maybe his numbers are showing. He's got a 16.94 Ks per 9. His baseball savant, he's 100 percentile in K percentage and whiff percentage, something that can play in the back end of a Mariners bullpen. They have shown that they can capitalize on guys with very high volatile stuff. They show that they can limit Matt Brash's walks. Fernando Cruz, your complaint about him in the green room beforehand was that he's walking a lot of guys. I'm just saying.
We don't have a green room.
I'm pulling back the curtain. I think Cruz can make a lot of sense, and I don't think he would cost a ton. He's 34, but he is a free agent in 2029 because of his MLB career's been all over the place. I mean, bro got drafted back in 2007. He's been around baseball for a long time. He even still has options, Colton. I don't want to throw out packages for these guys, but for a reliever, it's not going to cost a lot. Especially like you're not trading for the big guys like when we traded Paul Sewald last year. It's not going to require you to give up a guy like Dom Canzone, Josh Rojas, and Ryan Bliss. Like those moves aren't necessarily what the Mariners are looking for right now. They don't need the big dog at the back of the pen. They just need a couple of the other little guard dogs around him, if that makes sense. No? You didn't like
No,
that one?
that was good. No, that was solid.
Okay.
I think it's interesting because so the way that I look at it is adding another big guy like that, like I think is what the Mariners should do
Okay.
personally. I think they do need to go out there and add another big dog, going by your reference here, because Stanek hasn't been that,
Sure.
and Santos is supposed to be back by July, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Brash is out for the year, so it's like we were supposed to have 3 to 4 big dogs going bow wow in the back end of this bullpen,
Bow wow
and we're
wow.
down to one,
Just going,
and
oh.
so. Arr! And so I look at this bullpen right now and I say, I don't know if I like if in a 1-run game and Munoz is down, I don't trust any of these guys right now to go out there and get a save for you. Do I trust Fernando Cruz? I don't know. Maybe he's going to strike a lot of guys out, but he's also going to get BABIP to hell. Looking at, I mean, Joe is too afraid to talk about trading for David Bednar or Ryan Helsley.
Or
So,
Alexis Diaz for the Reds.
or Alexis Diaz. He's too afraid to talk about it.
Maybe not afraid. I just don't know if it's necessary. And I can understand why people might look at that way. And if that's in the same vein as the Mason Miller conversation, one, Mason Miller is off limits. It's not going to happen. I would say out of the three, Helsley, Bednar, or Diaz, I feel like in order of ability to acquire, Bednar, Diaz, Helsley. Helsley's going to be the top one that you're going to try and go get if you can. Sure, like if there's something that the Mariners can pull together, I'm okay with it. I just don't know if it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it all does depend on what it's going to cost you. And I think that the next tier for me on that list is former Andrew Kittredge. He's played for 8 seasons in the major leagues, currently has a 2.7 ERA with a 1.53 ERA plus, 3.37 FIP. He is also 34 years old, just so he's kind of a boomer, Joe.
Yeah.
Like our
Old.
good friend Fernando Cruz.
Old.
But you look at his savant page, and he is in the 100th percentile in chase rate. And a lot of red on his page, 78th in whiff percentage, 73rd percentile in K percentage. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He doesn't give up a lot of barrels. So another guy that I like quite a bit. And he's from Washington. He's like a Spokane. I think he was born in Spokane, went to, I think, UW. So I don't know. I think it's just like a fun little pickup for the Mariners. And he's a free agent at the end of this year. So it shouldn't cost you a lot because the Cardinals suck. And so they have no reason to hold on to him. But could they get something decent? Like, they're going to be, if they shop Helsley, he's the guy that's going to bring them a big return. Not so much for Andrew Kittredge. I'm not sure what the return would be, especially because he is a free agent at the end of the year. But obviously, I'm not willing to give up a bunch of like big name prospects for relievers because frankly, the Mariners are good at making relievers. They're good at finding Joe Bob on the street and saying, "Hey, you want to be a pitcher?" And Joe Bob's like, "Sure." And then Joe Bob's an all-star. So
just like that.
I don't know. Just like that. But Joe, there's one more person that you did want to mention here, and who's that?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Accent, and also Salmon Burrito. This is the guy that way back, like streams from like, I feel like a month and a half ago. It was Dowry Moretta. I think I'm saying his name wrong. Guy that got Tommy John. He's got like the reverse sinker or slider that goes the opposite way. And then also Colin Holderman, both Pirates. I'm looking at Holderman's page right now. So far in 2024, in 11 innings, 12 games pitched, bro's got a .82 ERA. He has been very, very good, very efficient for the Pirates. We're picking on the NL Central here because it seems like the Brewers and the Cubs are leagues ahead, I'd say, of these bottom 3 teams. And looking at the Pirates, sure, maybe it's Bednar, but I think Colin Holderman could be a guy that can go out there and give you leverage innings as well, establish himself in the Mariners bullpen to be a guy that, if he's in a more consistent role with guys around him that make him better, a lot of the savant page is red. I think the Mariners, you said it, they have established themselves as a team and an organization that can identify things that they like in a pitcher and bring the best out of them. His expected ERA, if it was a qualified thing, it's not qualified on a savant page right now. It looks like it'd be in the 90th percentile and above. Same thing with expected batting average. His fastball velo is in the 89th percentile at 96.5 miles per hour. Average exit velocity looks like it's at about 100 as well as far as the percentile. Limits hard contact. He doesn't get a bunch of chase percentage, but whiff percentage and K percentage, both well above average there. Colin Holderman could be a guy that he's younger than Kittredge and Fernando Cruz so far. He's 28, but he's got minor league options available. He's be a free agent in 2029. So it's, could be even like a longer term investment type situation with acquiring Colin Holderman, say like similar to when the Mariners claimed Gabe Spire off waivers, like a guy that they have in their organization for a lot longer than a singular year like Andrew Kittredge, or maybe the next guy that you're going to talk about here, Colton, closer for the Miami Marlins, Tanner Scott.
Yeah, I mean, we already saw the Marlins start their sell off here. But I actually want to talk about somebody different first, if
Oh,
that's okay with you.
feel free.
Because you talked about our dear friend Accent, and that reminded me of Luis Crivello, who is down in Double-A Arkansas right now.
Mm.
A guy that is in house for the Seattle Mariners right now. He's running a 2 ERA over 18 innings pitched, 1.59 batting average against. He has a Ks per nine of around 11, and a K to walk rate of 5.5. So 5.5 Ks per walk. He's a guy who's been really, really good down there in the minor leagues. A guy who, as Accent has noted to us before, someone you've never heard of, which is true. I'd never heard of the guy before. But it's just, I think that this is somebody where if it gets to that point, the Mariners could try to bring him up. I'm not necessarily saying that he is somebody that should be like a high leverage guy
Like the
by
answer.
any means. Right. But it's an option where, again, the Mariners are good at this. They're good at finding pitchers like this and turning them into something. You mentioned Tanner Scott with the Miami Marlins so far this year in 17 games. He has a 2.03 ERA plus with a 2.12 ERA. His Ks per nine right now is 9.5, but he is walking a lot of guys at just one strikeout per walk. So I think that I don't know what it's going to cost because I don't know what the Marlins want because I don't know how far away they view themselves.
Yeah.
Honestly, and you look at what they had to give up for, or I'm sorry, what they got for Luis Ariz, and in my opinion, it was a decent package. Personally, I know a lot of people don't think that, but to me, it was a pretty good package that they got for him. As for Tanner Scott, again, he's a guy that walks a lot of people. He's in the first percentile in walk percentage, Joe.
Ouch.
So but 99th percentile in expected batting average exit velocity, 99th percentile, 92nd percentile in ground ball percentage. So if he can find a way to keep the ball in the zone, Tanner Scott is great. He's another lefty that you could have out of the bullpen. Depending on how long it's going to take Taylor Saucedo to come back, this is a guy that I think does make some sense. I don't know what the package would be, but for the last few years, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned Saucedo. I think, everything that we've heard injury-wise for him has been positive. So even say, like, for myself, if I were to take this Mariners roster for this game today and add Taylor Saucedo to this team instead of Kirby Steed pitched in the second game. For all intents and purposes, say like whatever, like that position is Kirby Steed for Taylor Saucedo did not pitch in the second game. I think you go to Sauce in that eighth inning instead of Austin Voth. You know what I mean? Like when Sauce comes back, it kind of helps realign because he's been pretty good in 2024. I think that also is another guy you're saying like in-house. Like Sauce is coming back soon. Is he 100% high leverage? No. But he is someone that can be a swingman for you, can go out there and get some tough outs. Another guy, you mentioned someone in-house in Arkansas. I thought about it as well, like when you're saying it. Logan Evans is tearing it up down in Arkansas as a starting pitcher. Do you think that they would maybe transition him to a bullpen role given like the state of the bullpen? Or are you thinking like he is their next starting pitching project along with like how Wu and Miller kind of like went last year along with Hancock kind of in the middle?
I don't see it personally. I think they want to keep him as a starter because that's the most value that he provides you. As a reliever, who knows? But you have Hancock down there right now. You have Jonathan Diaz, and then probably Logan Evans is like the third guy up down in the minor leagues right now. And so I think that changing him or switching him to a reliever would kind of hamper his value a little bit. Not to say that he wouldn't be good at it, because I'm sure he would be. But I think that just as a starting pitcher, just makes more sense to keep him there. Another guy that we need to talk about here, Joe, talking about the minor leagues, is J.P. Crawford, who's out on a rehab assignment right now. When can we expect him back?
I mean, it's where everyone's jumping for joy. If everything goes well in this final rehab assignment, the final game, he's on his way to Baltimore to join the Mariners for this upcoming huge road trip on the East Coast, which will be starting Friday. I think he would leave probably tomorrow with the squad. He'd be on that plane, which would be very exciting. Get JP back, help you lengthen out the lineup. The issue, what you're gonna say?
The squad left today.
Oh, did they? Did
Yeah,
they just jumped on the plane today?
that's normally what they do, so they have the full day off.
Oh well, he'll join them. He JP would then join them tomorrow, but not with the squad. Just he'll meet the squad there. Like text me the address, I'll be there in 5, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
5 hours, yeah.
Anyways, it will depend on how he looks in the final game of his rehab assignment. I would assume he'll be fine and he will be in Baltimore. The issue though is, Colton, do they start him with in my head, the probables for Baltimore in this series? The first 2 games are going to be lefties. Do they start JP against a lefty? Probably. Maybe. Get him 1 game in. Maybe they give him the second game off, because the probables for the Orioles are longtime Mariners friend Cole Irvin, John Means, and Dean Kramer. The Mariners do dodge Corbin Burns and Kyle Bradish in this series. Starting on Friday, it should be Cole Irvin versus who's next for the Mariners?
Be Louis or Bryce? Be Bryce Miller.
Bryce. Yeah, I think it's Bryce. And I mean, regardless, if JP's in the lineup, I'll be excited. If he's not, I know he'll join the starting crew. He'll be in the lineup announcement one of those games, because getting him back, he's the captain. He's a guy that can lengthen your lineup a ton. Even if he's not batting leadoff, I still think maybe Josh Rojas probably has earned his spot up there for the time being. And if JP gets hot, then you can kind of readjust as you go. Dylan Moore, he's played very well in JP's absence. Is it time for him to get a well-deserved day off? Probably. But with Bryce Miller on the mound against Cole Irvin in Game 1, Mariners just won the series against Kansas City. Baltimore's a tough team. Am I willing to say that I think the Mariners have the advantage in Game 1? Yes, I am.
On the mound, sure. Not in the batter's box.
Yeah,
And that'll be the case for 2 of the 3 series the Mariners are going on, or playing on this road trip. Let's talk about Joe, because I want to get your thoughts on this, because we talked about it a little bit in the green room.
Uh-huh.
As what do you do during this series now with Mitch Haniger, assuming that Garver's back on Friday? What do you do with Mitch Haniger? Do you, especially against a lefty, do you take Luke Raley out of the lineup because he's been hot, but do you run all your righties out there with Mitch in right field? I mean, maybe, I guess, Canzone sits.
I feel like Canzone would probably sit against one of them. Maybe you go Canzone off day on Friday, get him in there on Saturday. Just alternate between him and Luke Raley out there in left field. Yeah, it's maybe not ideal to get them at bats against left-handed pitching, but Haniger's looked great the last couple of games, like the last 2 specifically. Against a lefty, that's what he's there for. He's a guy that mashes against left-handed pitching. Ty's also looked great. So there's an opportunity, I think, in the 3rd game, which should be against Dean Kramer, to get either one of them, maybe even both of them, a day off, get Haniger and France off their feet, have Raley play first, and go maybe have Dylan Moore go out there in the outfield. If you're really wanted to push that agenda of Demo, he's looked good. I think he's looked good enough, but it'll be interesting to see how the rotating positions work there, because you've got 4 or 5 guys vying for at-bats who it can work. They're all playing well. Like, eventually you give Garver a day off by having Haniger slide to DH, or you just have Haniger get a day off by having Raley and Canzone both play in the outfield for you. You get Ty a day off by having Raley go play first base. Like, there's ways they can all rotate throughout those positions together. In short, because I've exasperated this conversation about what Haniger looks like in the first game, I feel like he has to play in Game 1, at least.
Against Cole Irvin, baby.
You have to.
Throw him in there.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, because you talked about JP coming back and whatnot. Like, what do you do with Demo? Demo, I mean, he might be at second base, depending on if Jorge Polanco is healthy. And if they have Rojas over there at 3rd instead of Urias, because Urias has slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, again, Rojas has looked good lately. Demo's looked good. I mean, offensively, this team's heating up. And, like, we didn't even talk about it for the Royals series, but I have never seen somebody, Cal Raleigh, hit so many foul home runs in my life.
Some of those, if he can straighten them out, they'd be on Utah Street come this weekend. But...
That's right. Yeah. But so obviously we'll get right-handed Cal in this series. Maybe we'll see a day where Sebi gets to start. It's hard. It's just hard to imagine, because Cal has been so good. But I mean, it might make sense to give Sebi a start here in one of these first two games to give Cal an extra day of rest. Maybe even he DHs depending on if Garver's back or not. But Cal's bat is so important to this lineup right now, it's really hard to justify it. Going into game two, Joe, what are we looking at pitching matchup wise?
It'll be Castillo versus John Means. And I think that will probably be the day Cal gets off. I think he probably starts the game one, and then that allows him to have a full day off on Saturday, allows him to play in the day game on Sunday against a right-handed pitcher. Should these probables all line up? This is just based around how the Orioles pitching staff went through this turn of the rotation. Things could change. Things could change. They could skip someone. They could bring someone up. I don't know. But it should be Irvin, Means into Kramer. So Castillo versus John Means. John Means is a guy that he's been injured here and there throughout the last 2 years. Had a good first start back, and then I think he had a poor second start. I think it's only his third start on the year against the Mariners. I mean, it's Castillo. He's looked really good the last couple times out ever since, I think, the Rockies series, maybe even before that. You know, we talk about the pitching advantage going in favor of the Mariners. I think, Colton, also offensively, the Mariners have gotten to left-handed pitching very well in 2024. They're 8-3 against lefties so far. Hopefully they can improve that record to 10-3. That would be ideal. Because this Orioles team, it's going to be hard. It'll be a hard series. This is probably your toughest opponent so far, given how they've played. Like you said it at the end of the Braves series, they weren't playing their best ball, it looked like, in that series. The Orioles, they just almost got swept. They're getting swept streak almost got ruined by the Blue Jays, but Adley Rutschman hit a walk-off homer, so that was, good for them. Good vibes all around there. So the Orioles team is no slouch. They're, I think, top 5 in terms of WRC plus by offense. They're sixth. Sorry, they're sixth at 113. Like, the Mariners have their work cut out for them in this one, but Castillo, you can go in there and shut him down. He's got this.
This is a series where you have to hope that your starters get deep, because once you get to the bullpen, unless it's Andres Munoz, I don't really have a whole lot of faith that these guys are going to be able to hold down this Orioles offense, because it is, like you said, one of the best in baseball. Obviously, Gunnar Henderson has been off to a really incredible start. Adley Rutschman, Ryan O'Hearn has been really good.
Jordan
right?
Westberg's great.
Yep. So it's like, this is a team where for the Mariners, they're starting pitching. They need to go deep in these games. And if they don't, the Mariners are going to be in trouble. I mean, I feel like that's just the case anyway with the Mariners, because their starting pitchers are so good. But with their bullpen kind of banged up and scuffling a little bit right now, the starting pitchers need to get deep, Joe, as we talk about game 3 here with Dean Kramer on the mound.
Opposite George Kirby, who had a great start. It didn't look like he was going to be able to go very long in that first game against the Royals, but he locked it down after a not ideal first inning. George Kirby, I think the last time he pitched against the Orioles was his complete game loss on Felix Day, or maybe not loss. I don't know if he got the loss on that day. I can't remember, but regardless, it went to extras. Mariners lost that game. George Kirby pitched a gem last time against the Orioles. A team that doesn't strike out a ton. They're kind of middle of the road. They're 14th in all of baseball at a 22.1 strikeout percentage. I mean, the Mariners, they were able to limit the damage from the Royals team that doesn't strike out. We know that they can put the ball in play. I think the big worry for the Mariners, like the big boppers on this Orioles team. Like you mentioned, Gunnar Henderson's off to a great start. Adley's no slouch. Like, there are guys in this lineup that can do damage at any given moment. It's about limiting those opportunities. And Dean Kramer, guy on the mound for the Orioles, he's been good. He's been pretty solid so far in 2024. But out of the right-handed pitchers the Mariners could have faced against the Orioles, getting Kramer instead of Burns and Kyle Bradish is a W. I look for the Mariners to just, keep their streak alive of not having a starting pitcher go 7 innings against them. The Orioles bullpen does not have Felix Bautista like they did last year. Sure, they've got Yennier Cano and Craig Kimbrell. Like, there's guys in the Orioles pen, but if you're able to scratch off a couple runs against the likes of Cole Irvin, John Means, and Dean Kramer, the Mariners offense, I think, has looked a lot more complete the last couple of times through just series in general. This is going to be their toughest challenge, though, because the offense is just going to have to do more compared to the previous series, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're going to have to pick their starting pitchers up. They probably are because of how good this Orioles offense is. Just don't get swept. I will say that every time the Mariners face a team of this caliber, you just don't get swept. And you know what? They almost swept the Braves when I said that. So
Here we go.
knock on wood, baby. But looking at this road trip as a whole, it's a big one. It's a 10-game road trip going from Baltimore to New York to Washington, D.C. I just want the Mariners, and we talked about this in the green room, Joe. I just want the Mariners to come home 5-5 on this road trip.
At a minimum.
At a minimum. Yeah, no worse than that. And if they come home 5-5, I will be just fine. Looking at the last, 9 series now, the Mariners have won 8 of the last 9 series. Like, this team is playing very well right now. I know that it's easy to compartmentalize certain games. Like, we look at the game they lost against Oakland, and we're like, well, it's over. It's over.
GG's. Yeah, good game. Nice try.
One game. Yeah, and then they won the series. Same with the second game against the Royals. They lost it. And we're like, oh, well, here we go again. Same old Mariners. And then they win the series. Like, it's so easy to look at one game and get super frustrated. And I just hope that's not the case on this road trip, Joe, because it's going to be a lot of tough games. You guys are probably tired of listening to us babble, so we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 87 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by Bet Online, the Jose Antonio Rodriguez episode of the Hit It Here podcast, and go Mariners.